Yesterday, George KURTZ and Adam Adelson conquered the twists and turns of Virginia International Raceway to take class victory in the first race of a doubleheader weekend. Can they sweep the weekend at VIR, or will a new day bring new winners? We're about to find out as GT America, powered by AWS, ramps up for round 6 of the season here in the Virginia foothills. Hello everyone, I'm Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick will be patrolling the pit lane for us. Race 2 of the weekend from VIR for GT America, powered by AWS, the single driver sprint race format, multi-class racing with GT3, GT4, and GT2 machinery all mixed together. And Calvin, a beautiful venue for it.
It really is spectacular. Just glorious weather here. It's cooled down since the extreme heat that we saw midweek, and just perfect race conditions. About 60 degrees ambient right now. Track temperature will gradually rise by the time we get to the checkered flag here this afternoon. But what a thriller we had here yesterday.
Really was exciting stuff. George KURTZ won from pole overall, but Jason Harwood, who was scheduled to start on the front row, he had to start at the back due to a miscue on the grid, and he put on a show for us.
He did. He was spectacular. He didn't quite have the ultimate pace of George KURTZ. That's why KURTZ is on the pole with the fastest lap from yesterday, but he was very close. And you know, with Jason, he wanted to get his elbows out here early, see if he can get that track position and maybe grab that win here today.
And as ever, the GT4 class was a total slugfest in race 1 of the weekend. This is the starting grid. On pole, as mentioned, the winner yesterday, George KURTZ, and he'll have Jason Harwood alongside, who had the drive of the day in race 1. Row number 2 sees Jeff Burton and Andy Pilgrim making his debut in the championship this weekend, starting 3rd and 4th. Starting 5th will be Justin Wetherill, who won a racing class yesterday in GT World Challenge America. Mirko Schultes will start alongside. Jason Daskalos rounding out the SRO 3 field. The lone GT2 car in the field is CJ Moses, the Virginia native racing on home soil. Then back to row 5, which finds the first of the GT4 competitors. Moise Uretsky on pole for the 2nd straight day. He'll have yesterday's winner Adam Adelson alongside. Then in the 2nd row of GT4, Jason Bell, the points leader coming into the weekend, and Chris Gumprecht. Back to Chris Cognazzi and Rob Holland in the next row. Gray Newell and Ross West making up row 8 on the overall grid. Elias Sabo and Jose De Silva on row 9. Marco Radicic, who won a race earlier this season in St. Petersburg, will have series debutant Jay Logan next to him to start this race. Paul KIEBLER and Matthew Ibrahim, his first weekend in a GT4 car, driving for the Dexter Racing team. Rick Euler, Nick Shandy, and Sean Whalen, as well as Chris Allegro, rounding out the lineup of 26 GT3, GT2, and GT4 machines ready to go here for today. 3rd member of the broadcast crew is Amanda Busick, and she's standing by in the pit lane.
Good morning, gentlemen. Dare I say it is a bit chilly down here today. It was a nice 65 degrees when I stepped out of my car to get ready for race number 1 as we kick off the 2nd race here at Virginia International Raceway. The guy that I talked to this morning was Jason Harwood as he was getting suited up ready to take to this track again today. He said he's likes this view much better right back on row 2. You did mention he started from the back yesterday. Said he just wants a nice little scenic drive here in Virginia, holding a cup of tea, but plans to win this thing as he finds that he has the fastest car on property and expects that Lambo to be ahead of that CrowdStrike Mercedes when the checkered flag waves.
He's a race winner already this season, 2nd race of the weekend in Sonoma, the last time out for the GT America Championship. And getting that first win in the series, a big boost of confidence for any driver.
It really is. It was a steep learning curve, but he's really getting to grips with this Lamborghini, and he wants to get this win here today. But George KURTZ is really starting to show that confidence with this new team aboard that AMG Mercedes. He's going to be tough to beat here today.
That's right, CrowdStrike, the sponsor. Riley Motorsports, the team for George KURTZ in 2022. Here comes the SRO 3 field down the front straightaway, looking for the 2nd green flag of the weekend. Race 2 at VIR is underway. It's a drag race down to the horseshoe, turn number 1. The Mercedes to the left-hand side of the screen, that's the pole sitter, George KURTZ, and he's able to get that advantage early on. Justin Wetherill making a move up the inside in the Triarci Ferrari. Andy Pilgrim really swallowed up from the 2nd row.
Yeah, bad start there for Pilgrim. Not sure if he has a technical issue. Here we see the GT4 start.
Moise Uretsky, that is the yellow Aston to the left-hand side of the screen, on pole for the second straight day. Yesterday, that was the first time he had ever led the field to green in SRO competition. He's on the way now. Great acceleration away, pulling in line right behind him. Race 1 winner, Adam Adelson. Jason Bell making a move up the inside. He'll grab the third spot.
Yeah, that was tight there. Everyone just kind of funneled in, trying to get single line there through turn 1. Looks like everyone survived. No argy-bargy early like we saw yesterday.
This was the duel at the front of the field for much of the day yesterday. Uretsky, who started the season in the Supra.
Here we go with Adelson, looking early, dives to the inside. Looks like he's grabbed the lead.
He made that move yesterday as well. Adam Adelson driving with confidence. He pulls off that move, moves to the point, and now Uretsky has to play defense with Jason Bell hot on his heels.
It seems like that Cayman just has a little sweet spot with the acceleration and torque coming off at turn 3 and is able to make that move on the Astons.
Keep in mind, no tire warmers in this series, so Adelson is getting this done on cold tires, very aggressive early on. That speaks to a driver that's comfortable with his race car.
He really is, and he's on a high right now. We see a little bit of a switch of positions between the two Zalus machines. BURTON, as we expect, gets up on the wheel early. Tries to chase down George KURTZ. Harwood, maybe they've gone with a slightly different tire pressure setup. Maybe his car will come in its sweet spot a little bit later in this race.
He's dropped back to the third spot. This brightly colored Bullockhorn livery on the SRO Motorsports car started on the outside of the front row. It's still a better position than he found himself in this time yesterday, having to start from the pit lane and driving his way through the field. Ended up just shy of the podium. Right now running in the third spot with pressure coming from Jason Daskalos right behind.
Daskalos was in the mix early yesterday, but then faded a little bit, so it doesn't seem like this car's this circuit's extremely good fit for that Audi, but you know that Jason will give it 100%. Very determined driver. He came into this weekend with the championship lead, but lost it yesterday to George KURTZ, we believe.
Harwood actually did make it up to the podium yesterday, finished in third in race 1 of the weekend. That's where he runs right now. Great start to the race for Mirko Schultes, moving forward in that Callaway Corvette. We've seen him qualify well, but struggle at the start of races throughout the season so far, Calvin, but looks like he's got a nice Corvette under him.
Yeah, he's looking really comfortable right now. He seems to always start on the back foot a little bit, takes a kind of a cautious and conservative approach to the weekends, but seems to always get better. There's always towards the top end of the fastest lap time sheet by the end of the weekend. There you see that Corvette tucking in nicely there, really carves that corner very well, a little bit more effectively than Daskalos in front of him.
Veteran driver Mirko Schultes from Germany, long-time affiliation and affinity for General Motors and Chevrolet in particular, and that Callaway Corvette looking strong in a straight line. He gets to the back bumper of Daskalos, but not close enough to make a move, and that brings Andy Pilgrim into the picture.
A little bit of a bob and weave there with Daskalos just trying to meandering down that back straightaway. Mirko trying to figure out that puzzle. Pilgrim looks like he's back up to speed, so it may have just been a bad start, maybe in the wrong gear there and got engulfed there initially, but trying to make a recovery drive here.
Well, it is his first weekend in the series. New team to the championship, Ski Autosports. SKI stands for Spending the Kids' Inheritance, and they're spending it well with a talent like Andy Pilgrim behind the wheel. He goes on the attack, looking to the inside of Schultes into turn 1, but has to back out of it.
Yeah, Mirko just tried to squeeze him a little bit, and he thought better of it and got out of it. So much experience. Rolex 24 overall winner, multiple wins with the Corvette racing team. And just a true gentleman, just a great guy, Andy Pilgrim.
I have to say, it is a bit odd watching Andy Pilgrim try and pass a Corvette, right?
A yellow Corvette, right.
So many years, that was his ride in various series. Of course, here in this paddock, long-time association with GM and the Cadillac program going back a decade or more.
BURTON is matching segment times here with KURTZ, not letting him get away. So nip and tuck between these two leaders right now. Hardwood staying there about 2 seconds back.
This is something we saw from Jeff Burton yesterday. He ended up starting second due to the fact that his teammate Harwood had to start from the pit lane, and for the first quarter of the race, he kept about this distance behind George KURTZ. Ultimately, George was able to pull away and establish himself at the front of the field, but Jeff Burton coming into his own.
He really is, and but the pace right now is about a couple of seconds off of what we saw here yesterday, so maybe George will get into his groove here a little bit. But he's got the track position, controlled the start nicely, and he just seems to be hitting his marks right now. He just seems to be really super consistent and solid. We talked about making that move to Riley Motorsports. He and Colin Brown share a similar car in GT World Challenge America, the Fanatec GT Championship. They've been very effective there as well this season.
CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race that time by for George Kurtz in the CrowdStrike car, a 1:47.541. Jeff Burton, though, only fractions of a tenth of a second away from Kurtz. So those two neck and neck at the front of the GT3 field. Here in GT4, Adam Adelson got the jump on that initial start around Moise Uretsky, but Uretsky hasn't gone quietly. He is very much in the mix, stalking the number 120 Porsche.
Yeah, well, he had that lead early, Uretsky did yesterday, and then on that restart, Adelson jumped around him and kind of streaked away. I think there's a little battle that Uretsky got wrapped up in between all of the Aston Martins, but today he's not feeling any threat from behind with Jason Belser there sitting in the third position. I think it's allowing Mosey to just really focus on that lead right now and try and hang tough.
Uretsky finished 13th in the MX5 Cup Championship last year for McCumbee McAleer Racing. Stephen McAleer of McCumbee McAleer Racing will be driving later today in the Pirelli GT4 America race this weekend, looking for a 6th consecutive win to start the season over there. But Uretsky does have some experience in this series. He did get a couple of podiums racing touring cars back in 2018. Problems here for the Stephen Cameron racing car off track and rejoining. That is Chris Cognazzi. Not sure what caused him to go off track, though.
Down in turn one, just got off the road. Not sure if there was contact and just got bumped out there. Didn't see any real damage to the race car. Be careful here until those tires get cleaned up, so hopefully there's no problems. But up front, KURTZ continues to lead. Burton staying with them. They got about a second advantage in terms of lap time over Howard right now, which to me is a little bit of a surprise. Thought Jason would be hanging with these guys, but seems to be dropping back a little bit. Pilgrim now up into that 4th position.
7.5 minutes into the race, George Kurtz out in front, and his co-driver for Fanatec GT, driver coach as well, is standing by with Amanda. We'll get to that in just 1 second. Chris Gumprecht off the track, though, right here in the Rentec Racing Mercedes.
And that's the exit of Oak Tree, but I think he may have come across the road from the S's. Let's take, big moment there going up into turn 9. And look how far this car travels, almost all the way across to the back straightaway.
Yeah, a lot of wide open spaces here at VIR, and a good thing too, because he went off at a high rate of speed. That car might be stranded with 31 minutes and 50 seconds to go in this 40-minute race. While we monitor that situation, let's get down to the pits in Amanda.
As you're saying, I was standing by with Colin Brown, George's teammate, and there's in the GT3 World Challenge. But when you look at spending time with George, no one knows him better than you and his prep as a race car driver. How does George walk into a weekend in breaking down what's ahead of him?
Well, you know, he's obviously a super focused guy, really determined, and, you know, just puts so much effort and work into racing. And you see it every week. He's better and better and better, and he just keeps his head down and goes to work. I think it's a lot of the same principles he does as a businessman running CrowdStrike, you know, and he's a super successful guy, and he translates that right over to racing. And, you know, his amount of prep work, the amount of conversations we have, the sim work we do prior to these events, you know, I think it just shines through it. He just works at it so hard, and you know, he loves to go out and win races. And obviously the GTA events have been really helpful for us in the World Challenge side as well. So it's been a really good combination.
You guys teamed up with Riley Motorsports this season. Tell us more about that partnership.
Yeah, it's been great. You know, these guys obviously are a championship-winning race team. Bill Riley, Matt, our engineer, have been doing a great job this whole year. So, you know, it's been really nice for us. The Mercedes brand obviously is one that George and I have driven for the last handful of years. So we knew the car, these guys knew the car, and it kind of made sense to join forces and, you know, really put together a nice focused effort. And I think it's been paying dividends. Obviously, we've had a lot of success already, and we're just continuing to build. You know, the amount of kind of leadership that George has seen, you know, on the whole team side. We just keep all pushing forward, trying to get better, and you know, keep working, focusing on the goal of just improving.
What an asset Colin Brown is for George Kurtz, who continues to lead, but Jeff Burton is hanging right there with him. It's about 100th of a second, one way or the other, it seems like lap after lap.
And look at this, in GT4, Uretsky has wrestled that lead back from Adelson.
In a big way, too.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Adam had a slight off there. It's a big gap, as you say. to be established over one single lap there. I think we should make Jeff Burton wear an open face helmet. I'd love to see the facial expressions when he's on the charge right now and determined to try and get that win here today.
He's an emotional guy. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. Usually it's a big old smile, and
right,
you can
exactly.
see it a mile away. I imagine he's having a blast right now, hounding a longtime rival in this championship, a friendly rival at that, with George KURTZ. I mean, those two have been going head-to-head now for a number of years. And here at the top of this series, we've seen this now for the second straight year, that consistently they're two of the quickest in the SRO 3 category.
Yeah, and I think George has done a really nice job, super consistent lap times. They're now within about 3/4 of a second of the fastest laps yesterday, so it seems as if the fuel burns off a little bit. These Pirelli tires are really hanging in there and giving the performance and the lap times, but I think when you give a carrot right in front of Jeff Burton, he's just really hanging tough there within half a second of that lead.
Comparing lap times on that last lap, Adelson and UHLER, it's not a huge difference between them. So I'm not really sure how this swap of the lead took place, but it is UHLER that ended up out in front once again. He started off the season in a big way. Here's a replay. This probably will tell the story. Looks like perhaps some lap traffic.
Whoa.
Oh, and a big moment there for Adelson.
There was. UHLER pounces there. They get side by side, and Adelson gets boxed out a little bit. So a bit of a moment, let's put it that way.
Well, and that's a bit of giving Adam a taste of his own medicine, isn't it? I mean, he's made a couple of moves there in that same corner in a very similar way throughout the course of the weekend, but UHLER, credit to him, he was ready, he was poised, and when the opportunity struck, he took it.
Yeah, and he seems to be stretching it out a little bit as well. So here we see some traffic coming into play. Looks like the two leaders have cut through there with no real delta being established on that move. But Jeff is just hanging there, and I think that's really important for him. I think when you keep him focused like that, he is really quick. He's always up on the wheel early. He's not to be intimidated. And you know, if there's a little chink in the armor from George KURTZ, that Burton will pounce.
One of the exciting parts of this championship is the mixed class nature. It's almost a throwback to when GT and GTS used to run together in the World Challenge days, or sometimes you would have seen the GTs and touring cars run together if you go far enough back in the championship's history. And managing that traffic is a real skill set in sports car racing, and they're going to have their hands full.
Managing a roadblock right now. Look at this. This is a chess match.
Cognazzi working on the Mustang of Allegro, and he makes that pass. Now you see KURTZ able to get that job done, but Burton did not. And this is going to be costly for Jeff Burton. You have to be so patient through this section of the track.
Yeah, and this is going to be key right now. I think there's going to be a separator right there with that GT4 car in between them. But George has just got to be patient. He's doing a really nice job, not doing any high-risk moves. There's Burton, plows it down to the inside. That was aggressive. Someone off and on coming through turn 10.
It's a tough place to be, too, if you're the GT4
Look at Burton.
car. Oh!
Just a bit too aggressive there by Jeff.
That's a KIEBLER going around. Cognazzi also.
Just mistimed. I think he was trying to slide inside there before you get to turn 12. Oak Tree onto that back straightaway, but the stewards will be looking at that one, unfortunately, for Jeff Burton.
Well, again, it's a tough situation for the slower class. You want to get out of the way. You don't want to impede the leaders, but there are portions of this track you pretty much have the one line you must stay on, or else you risk having a big off.
Yeah, and the GT4 cars have a decent amount of downforce. They're going to roll pretty much the same speed through some of these apexes, so I think Jeff was just trying to set up to get that little cut back to the inside of this car here. Let's watch it there. KURTZ to the outside. Yeah, just up and on the curb. He tried to not get into him, but just nowhere to go with that move on KIEBLER. George now a little twitch there. Late on the brakes, these guys do have ABS, so that's going to arrest the speed a little bit. But even so, it's just going to snatch a little bit if you're really on threshold braking still. Get back into a rhythm, cleared that traffic, and focus forward now and just hit his marks. Burton's going to keep charging and just wait to see if there's any news from the stewards. Doesn't matter that it's a car that's not in your class.
That's a look at the Zalus team. Anderson Snow On the right, he'll be driving with Jason Harward later today in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Also saw Ty Isaac, who oversees this team, former speed skater for the U.S. national team. Whoa. Jeff Burton's still pushing hard, isn't he? That was right on the edge.
Pushing hard, yeah. He's got the fastest lap of the race by just a 100th of a second, so they're very evenly matched, and he's just trying to get back to the tail of that Mercedes.
And Harward had a better time through that traffic, I think, than the top two did. He's closed that gap down now. It's just 1.8 seconds from Burton to Harward, which is about the same gap from KURTZ to Burton at this stage. And that's one of the reports Amanda had for us yesterday, that Ty Isaac talking about how Jason Harward feels like getting through the lap traffic is a big part of his skill set.
Well, he certainly has done it very effectively here today, and I do wonder, just on the setup, a car did not come to life early. Maybe Jason takes a little bit more time to really get into his groove, but maybe it's just a tire pressure setup. You can start the tire pressure a little bit lower. You're going to take some time to get the energy in, but then kind of the mid part of the races we're getting to right now, maybe his car's starting to feel a little bit better than the leaders.
Burton closing in once again on George KURTZ. At the line, that gap was down to 0.6 of a second. It was about a second difference between the two that last time around.
Yeah, Burton 0.7 quicker on that last lap than KURTZ. Harward now has the fastest lap of the race, so he's the fastest car in this race, almost matching the fast lap time of yesterday of George KURTZ. So Harward is on the charge right now, feeling it.
Burton won 3 races in the championship last year, swept the weekend in his class at Nashville. Also won overall at Watkins Glen Race 2. Has yet to win, though, this season. Best finish of 2nd yesterday. Prior to that, had a 3rd at Sonoma.
So far, George KURTZ has done a really nice job of managing this traffic. Hasn't panicked. Just seems to be a step ahead of everything happening in front of him.
Marco Radicic there in the BMW, pulling offline to let the leaders through. That's the 6th place, make that 8th place running GT4 car in the field. Hasn't been the weekend I think Marco was hoping for, especially given how strong his start to the season was. Just hasn't been able to flex that muscle this weekend.
Yeah, he was frustrated a little bit about the, what we call a balance of performance in terms of the specs that the cars are adjusted to for various circuits, and he felt that the BMW has always shown very well here, but he just said this weekend we just seem to be off the mark a little bit, so I know he had concerns going in. Oh, and Burton's in pit lane. Maybe that is a call from the stewards. Yeah, drive-through penalty for that little bump with KIEBLER. Really a no-brainer. I mean, even though, as I said, it's not a car in your same class, you're ruining their day. So, unfortunate, but he was charging. He didn't want to let KURTZ get away. Just got it a little bit wrong. So we'll take another look at it here.
Yeah, that's the incident in question. KIEBLER was in the middle of the road. I think he was caught a bit off guard when KURTZ came through, and that left him in a strange position. And then for Burton, you don't usually encounter a car in the middle of the road in that part of the track.
Well, the other problem is you really can't get out of the way there. You're risking running off the road. We see so many cars when they run a little bit wide there through turns 11 and 12. You get in the grey, you can't get the car to turn any longer. So for KIEBLER, he had no option but to kind of keep it in the middle of the road and right on line. And I don't think Jeff was trying to make a move there. I think he's just trying to get set up to cut back in before he got to turn 12, the final ones we're looking at right now for Uretsky.
Cost Jeff Burton 5 spots from 2nd down to 7th in class, and we'll have a better sense next time around just how far behind the leaders he is, but he'll go back off and start chasing down Justin Wetherill, who runs 6th as we approach the halfway mark in this 40-minute sprint to the checkers.
Wondering what happened to Adelson, because he got that lead, he had the track position, and since that little moment that he had coming through turn 3, so I wonder if something is maybe broken on the suspension, maybe a sway bar or something that gave him that moment, and then also has kind of hampered his pace ever since.
Well, he's running within 1/10 of a second if you compare the last lap to the race leader, Moisey Uretsky. Come to the line now, we'll see if that changes. Oh, problems here for Allegro in the Mustang. Chris off track at the moment. We'll see if we can figure out what happened.
Not sure if there was a touch or not. Looks like he's already loose coming through that corner. Don't think he got any help.
Didn't look like it to me. It's a lot of power to handle under the right foot in that Mustang.
A lot of grass to cut out there as well. Kerrigan Smith and his whole staff here just keep this place looking beautiful. And they've really been on top of the safety improvements around this race circuit with guardrail and catch fencing. And even when you run off course like that, it's important that you don't have any big dips in the road that can certainly unsettle a car that's had an off-course excursion. And we saw that ride that drivers have had today, certainly doing its task out there.
For Uretsky, who leads in GT4, we got the GT3 leader coming through. But he started the season off with a pair of podiums, third in both of the street course races in St. Petersburg, Florida back in February. Only had one result of note at Sonoma, not classified in the first race there, finished 7th in the second. And then it's been a long wait to get back to action because this series was not at NOLA Motorsports Park. They'll have a race of their own at Nashville later on this season that the rest of the SRO categories will not be taking part in, so that's why they'll be there as a standalone race, and they were not at NOLA. So he's had to sit there and think about this for the past several months as they go 3 wide down the front straightaway, and that really boxed George KURTZ in.
It did, but he doesn't have extreme pressure right now. Howard's kind of hanging there, but you can see he's faded a little bit. Not sure, even though he's got the fastest lap of the race, whether he's got enough to really threaten George here for the win today.
Well, Amanda did ask the team and confirmed your theory. They started on tire pressures that would be compromised at the beginning of the race with the idea of being stronger at the end. So we'll see if that does come to the Lamborghini team. Right now running 3.2 seconds behind the race leader. This is Jason Daskalos working through the GT4 traffic. Daskalos right now in 4th. Had a disappointing day yesterday, but bouncing back and looking pretty strong just off the podium.
Yeah, and Bell's having another strong run coming off the championship season last year. Was very confident after the testing here, but the track has changed a lot in terms of the temperatures that everyone was dealing with, getting dialed in for this weekend. We suddenly got to yesterday morning, it's like we were in a different part of the world, right, in terms of the temperature range that you're going to compete in. And that can really change the setups that you got. You get a car that's working really well on a hot, greasy track, and then suddenly you get these perfect conditions. It's just making sure you get the car dialed back towards that kind of setup, and someone else can suddenly be in their sweet spot.
Jason Bell entered this weekend as the points leader, won race 2 at St. Pete, which is home turf for him. He's from the Tampa Bay area. That was an emotional win for him. He had a lot riding on that weekend with so many friends and family there attending those races. Had such frustration in the first race where he didn't have the cleanest of runs. Not really his fault, just the way that those races started. And he charged back through the field to get to 5th. And then came out with a vengeance in race 2 and scored that win. His only win so far this year, but he is, of course, the reigning champion in GT4 in GT America.
What's crazy is we could potentially be looking at our 6th different winner in GT4 here today if Uretsky can bring it home.
Yeah, 6 winners in as many races. That's how competitive the GT4 class has been this season. We drop back here and find an Aston Martin duel between Gray Newell and Elias Sabo. They run 6th and 7th respectively. That's the Heart of Racing team out in front with Flying Lizard Motorsports. Always good to have that Flying Lizard logo on the hood of a car. Right there behind with Sabo behind the wheel.
Yeah, I think Sabo's really enjoying his campaign this year and getting double duty on race weekends. He's really accelerating his progress. Got Andy Lee as his co-driver in Sprint X competition. Stephen Costello's old former crew chief of mine when I first came over to the States back in the mid-'80s, now leading the charge here for Flying Lizard. He's got a ton of experience, really first-class guy. So excited to see him back in our paddock.
Down to 15 minutes to go. But to your point, you look through this paddock and there are some big-name drivers, big-name engineers, big-time teams all throughout the SRO America paddock. And so not a surprise to bump into an old running mate in your case. This is a little bit further down the order. Chris Cagnazzi battling with Sean Whalen. Cagnazzi just took that spot away. That's for 10th We saw Chris have that off earlier. Did a great job with the 5th fastest lap of the race yesterday to get a good starting spot. Unfortunately, he's been forced to be on the rebound from a pretty early stage in this race with that off, but a decent job recovering to this point.
What's great for these teams that are pulling double duty, they really get a great read on this. Oh,
that's Harward off from the 2nd spot in the tire barrier. I think you might be right. We'll soon see. And KURTZ now maybe was off track again based on all the dust coming off of that car. That's allowed WHALEN by. And now Nick Shanny also coming by for a position in GT4. But the off for Harward has totally shaken up the order in SRO3 with George KURTZ now a massive lead over Andy Pilgrim, who on debut finds himself in 2nd. Daskalos now up in podium contention running 3rd. Harward still stuck in the grass, stuck in the tire barrier.
I think it's coming down through the roller coaster, isn't it?
Yes. Let's take a look at the replay. Car already off, and that's not an insignificant hit.
No, it's so easy to drop a wheel. Very tricky part of the racetrack. I haven't done a ton of laps here, but when I did, it's so easy to drop that left side. You're looking through the corner. It's basically coming onto Hogpen right there.
Yeah, 16A, 16B, leading into the final sequence of quarters, and indeed KURTZ did have another off. Oh, this is going to be an interesting moment for WHALEN.
Yeah.
We go full course yellow, by the way, for the stranded car of Jason Harward.
That's about as sideways as you can get without spinning it around there. So great job by Chris there, keeping it under control and keeping it pointed in the right direction. But a couple of offs here today, so he's certainly pushing his 89 machine off there, dropping like flies right now. That's KIEBLER. He's been helped off himself today, and maybe he's had his own moment here.
Yeah, he's been in the wars today. Debut this season for Paul KIEBLER in the championship. Made a few starts last year, including a runner-up finish in class in Pirelli GT4 America last year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Safely makes his way cutting back to pit lane there. A little bit of damage underneath the right rear corner there, so we'll try and get that addressed. They can do it quickly. They may not lose too much time here as the leader is now being arrested by the safety car.
Yeah, so depending on the cleanup, we might have a couple laps to shoot this out to the finish. This is going to bring Jeff Burton back into the picture. He still runs 7th, but it should bring him back to at least closer to the rest of the cars in his class. There might be some out-of-class traffic between him and those in front. This is Burton here. Great start to the race.
He did. It was a great battle. I mean, George was just super consistent, just keeping it on line, didn't make any little error there to give Jeff the opportunity. And I think Jeff saw that bundle of traffic and he said, maybe this is time to go, but just got a little bit too aggressive there and turned KIEBLER around, got that penalty.
And this has to be so frustrating for Jason Harward. He had the car set up for the long run. It might have been coming to him, had the fastest lap of the race, but it ends up in the tire barrier in Hogpen. His race appears to have been run. So Andy Pilgrim, debut in the championship, finds himself 2nd. Late race restart, all of his experience.
Well, Ferrari seems to have decent straightaway speed. Obviously didn't have the best start to this race, kind of got engulfed there initially, but fought his way back through up into the top 3 or 4, and then with the drama for Burton and now Harward promotes him up to 2nd. Daskalos sits there in 3rd. So it'll be a good point stay for Jason. Keep him tight to KURTZ in the championship points-wise.
Yeah, that has been the battle. Daskalos with a couple of wins so far this year. Understand that there could be some fluid on the track, and whether that's cause or effect, I can't say. But that is in the Hogpen section where Harward had his issue a few moments ago.
That explained things because KIEBLER went off in the same area of the racetrack, so maybe something that's catching out the drivers there, and that's the probably the worst part of the racetrack for having that happen. Such a flow and commitment coming down here, and if you have to be inch perfect, and if suddenly you place the car and it just moves on you a little bit, if there is some oil down, you got no room to catch it again.
Well, that dynamic of this track, it's a double-edged sword. I think drivers do enjoy the challenge. They know that a mistake is going to be punished, but it also rewards those that can operate close to the edge consistently lap after lap. But again, the other side of that coin is a small mistake can have big consequences.
It can. It's really old school, and the track has done a tremendous job with the safety improvements here. There's now 3,000 feet of guardrail. Drivers left as we're looking at right now, just this side of the camera shot we're looking at, from the exit of Hog Pen all the way down to turn 1. There's new catch fencing, geobrook catch fencing, which is phenomenal. The new technology that they have with some of this catch fencing material and system in place down in turn 1, also in turns 3 and 4. So gradually, we spent time with Kerrigan Smith there yesterday. Was kind enough to walk us through some of the track improvements, and also for the teams as well. A lot more room on the cold side of the pit wall now, with some excavation that was done there, leveling out the cold side to the hot side of the pit wall. There was a little foot delta there, which made it really tricky for some of the teams and championships that have to do refueling.
And so many more improvements on their way to the track. More guardrail coming, more catch fencing coming. For those that live near here, more on-site housing and hotel rooms and things like that, all in the works as well. This track, in many ways, it was dormant for so many years. When it came back, the idea was to create a country club type atmosphere. And now we see that at racetracks across the country, but in many ways, this was the track that pioneered that outlook to having a full service venue, more than just a track that's open on race weekends.
Yeah, and it's nicely situated here on the east side of the country, and a lot of teams think it's a good central location for the majority of the venues that we go to. So it ticks a lot of the boxes, and the one thing you know when you come to VIR is that their appreciation for their customers is their biggest priority. They really want to welcome you here. They'll do anything it takes to make you feel comfortable in the environment, help you out, support you in every way. And I think for a lot of their tenants, we spent time with the Skip Barber organization here this weekend, and just a beautiful facility. And there's a lot of expansion here that is very exciting. There's really been an upswing since some years when it was a little bit tougher. I mean, everyone seems to be on board. Motor racing is in a great spot right now.
It's such a unique story. The fact that this track, it had a great early history, opening in 1957 and running through 1974, but then it closed and the land basically was reclaimed. It became farmland once again, and out of nowhere, it seemed like the track reemerged from its dormancy and was revived, reopening in the year 2000, and the track surface had been totally overgrown at that point. But what the new owners ended up doing, I mean, they found where the track went. They paved in that same location, so it has the same character as the original layout. They've added some bits and pieces. There are several configurations of this track that you can run, but for a track to go away for a quarter of a century, effectively, and then to come back and have this renaissance, that's not a story you hear very often.
No, and just great topography, just the elevation change. I think you mentioned yesterday, like a 100-foot drop there as you plunge down the hill here through the roller coaster. Doesn't quite match the extreme of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, where I think it's 130 feet from top of the corkscrew down to the final corner there. But nonetheless, very challenging for the drivers. And I relate it to a beautiful golf course, just taking the piece of land and kind of cutting through and shaping it. They did an awesome job.
So much history at this track. You go back to the inaugural race run here, 1957, August of 57, won by Carroll Shelby in a Maserati 450S. Can't get too much bigger name or legendary name in American sports car racing than that. So many big races over the years. IMSA racing here back in the old days. Trans Am racing here. In fact, the corner, NASCAR corner, turn 3, NASCAR Bend, got its name because there were a number of NASCAR drivers racing in a Trans Am race here in 1966. Richard Petty, David Pearson, Wendell Scott, among others. And they, I guess, had some issues in that corner, so that's where the name comes from. So many big names have raced here, and now you could add this as a fixture on the schedule for SRO America and its associated championships this year and for many years to come, we certainly hope. Let's go down and quickly check in with Amanda in the pit lane with just 5 minutes to go in the race.
Well, we just saw the Zalus Lamborghini go around us on the flatbed. Not the end that Jason Harwood was looking for today. When you get over to the pit box after one of these accidents, you normally see the crew guys start to scatter. I was able to catch up with Ty Isaac before he got away, and he said that just on the response from Jason, it just simply on the radio was like, guys, I'm off, big hit, maybe the hardest that I've had in my career, but Ty was optimistic that the damage on the Lamborghini didn't look so bad, and very proud of Jason for the fastest lap that he was able to have here. But just to add on the conversation you guys were having today, walking up and down pit lane and talking to the drivers here this weekend, they talk about the joy of driving at this track, and a lot of them talk about it just being out for a nice Sunday drive, Sunday stroll, and I think that country club atmosphere is what adds to the enjoyment that we're seeing out of the drivers here in real time.
It tends to be a driver's favorite. Good news here, it appears the lights are off on the safety car. With 4 minutes to go, we should have a dash to the checkered flag coming up in just a moment. That is good news for everyone not named George KURTZ or Moise Goretzky, who would have probably been just fine seeing this race run behind the safety car for a few more minutes. They're going to have to earn this win now.
Yeah, they are. And I'm going to be curious to see how much ground Jeff Burton can make up here with just a couple of laps to play with. There you see him, 6 car in line. He's going to be on the attack here. Is a podium possible? Maybe.
That we'll find out very soon. Got word, by the way, Adam Adelson, that car is okay, so he's been very aggressive on starts and restarts. Keep an eye on him. He runs second in GT4. The safety car accelerating away with Mike Stillwagon behind the wheel. The man calling the green flag for George KURTZ and Riley Motorsports, Matt Benarowitz, and he has called it because into the acceleration zone, George KURTZ accelerates away, builds up a big gap. Here we go. Andy Pilgrim giving chase, and Jason Daskalos running third.
One thing these competitors have to be careful of, you got to wait for the stripe before you make that move so you can accelerate up, but you cannot pass. Daskalos to the outside of Pilgrim. KURTZ has grabbed the lead here and just taken off a little bit. Burton in side-by-side action there, coming off turn 1.
This is a big move for Daskalos if he can get it done. The man he's dueling for the championship at this stage of the season is George KURTZ, and he's disappearing out his windshield. Daskalos took a peek to the inside, but couldn't get the move made.
Weatherall is hanging tough there. Burton cannot get around him. That's going to really stymie his thoughts of a podium, maybe.
KURTZ, Pilgrim, Daskalos, Schultz is the top
four.
This
Adelson
is the move.
To the inside. Tried to do a cut and paste on the move he made earlier, but Goretzky was up to the challenge.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, says Moise Goretzky, and he won't be fooled again. Fending off the challenge from Adelson for now, but Adelson right there in the slipstream. It's Aston Martin versus Porsche coming through the climbing S's.
Yeah, great little battle going on. Gray Newell's had a good restart here as well. He's right up on the rear bumper of Rob Holland right now.
Yeah, really great restart there for Gray Newell. In the heart of racing, Aston, 5th car in line. GT4 lead up for grabs. Adelson taking a peek to the outside through Oak Tree. Tucks back in line. Now the drag race down Madison Avenue. And it looks like Goretzky really nailed Oak Tree.
Boy, did he ever. He just rolled huge speed through there, and the car was giving him the grip. The tires were giving him the grip. And he gapped him by about a car length in that one corner alone.
Behind the top 3, Rob Holland running in 4th. He's got Newell and Schwest scrapping for position right behind him. Adelson again closing in under braking. He got to the rear wing of Moise Goretzky as the white flag flies at VIR. Final lap of race 2 of the weekend.
Burton there still cannot find a way by Corey Weatherall, and that's really protecting Daskalos from maybe holding on to that podium position here today. Just 1 lap to go to work with. Adelson trying to keep it tight on the leader here in GT4.
Well, we know his patented move is in the left hook, turn 4. That's where he likes to make the pass if he can, but he's going to take a lunge in 1.
Goretzky saw him coming and gives him the lane. Can he do the under over here and get back to side-by-side action? This is where it gets tricky. Burton a quick spin there coming through.
And that's right in front of the GT4 leaders. Goretzky back in front, Adelson right there. This is where he likes to take the lunge to the left of the screen. Will we do it? Not this time. He tucks back in line. Goretzky still leads with less than a lap to go.
Yeah, and Burton should be up the road here. It should not affect this battle for GT4 win.
Burton kicking up the dust for the GT4 leaders to drive through. Goretzky holds down that spot. but Adelson giving him everything he can handle. Jason Bell waiting in the wings if something should happen. He runs in third.
Rob Holland's having a really strong finish to this race. He's got thoughts of a podium, trying to figure out a way to get to Jason Bell's rear bumper here with just half a lap to go.
Holland was a race winner in this series a year ago in the Mustang, now driving the Porsche. Speaking of Porsches, Adelson trying the long way around.
Watch this, he's going to cut to the inside, but Urecki just rolls huge speed right there. Keeps it just together. Beautiful job there of managing this race.
Urecki so strong through Oak Tree. Now he's got the jump down Madison Avenue, but up at the front, George Kurtz fins off the challenge from Andy Pilgrim and will sweep the weekend at VIR. George Kurtz takes the checkered flag in race number 2. Andy Pilgrim comes home second. Here's the battle. Adelson is off. Big off as Urecki comes through. Adelson into the tire barrier.
Yeah, just total commitment there and just got a little bit out of shape there into the brake zone, and that's opened it up for Jason Bell to maybe slide through. He's going to be second here, I think. Holland is going to grab a podium.
Big results for Jason Bell to come home in second, but out front, Moise Urecki will take his first win in GT America, powered by AWS.
Here comes Holland. Is going to be a... Oh, that was a photo finish at the line.
And Holland got Bell.
Wow.
P2 for Rob Holland by 0.04 of a second.
That was so close. Just that huge momentum there. Picked up the draft, did a slingshot, and just pips him at the line.
What a finish in GT4. Heartbreak for Adam Adelson, but like you said, full commitment. It was checkers or wreckers in that situation.
Such a tricky braking zone. You're in the right spot, then suddenly you're in the wrong spot. Just carried too much speed in there. Dirty part of the racetrack, lose it. Fortunately didn't collect Urecki, but a little bit of an impact there with the tire bundle, of course.
Gray Newell brings his car home in 4th. Good result for him. Similar Ross Schwest in 5th. Elias Sabo 6th in the GT4 field. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, George Kurtz over Andy Pilgrim by just over half a second. And here's your winner in GT2. That was CJ Moses. Adam Adelson will drive that car back. That's good to see. Adam must be all right. I'm sure he's hurting inside, though. He was that close to sweeping the weekend.
Yeah, it was a good performance, and he put it all on the line, which is what it's all about, right? It's go for it time. Last lap, win potentially.
And for CJ Moses, the lone GT2 car in the field, but racing on home soil. He's a Virginian. This is the track that got him to fall in love with road racing. Has as many laps here as anywhere. And a nice, clean day for CJ Moses, but your race winner at GT4. Dramatic stuff. Moise Urecki, first career win in GT America.
No repeat winners this year. Amazing, 6 runs in.
It's a great point. 6 winners in as many races in the GT4 class. Meanwhile, George Kurtz and Daskalos continue to dominate in SRO 3. But it's a wide open affair in the GT4 side of things. Can't wait to see what the next round at Watkins Glen brings. CrowdStrike fastest lap will come as some consolation, I suppose, for Jason Harward, who had a nice run going but went off and brought out that yellow that set up all that drama late.
And Pilgrim had his fastest race lap, the very last lap of the race, putting the pressure on Kurtz there and keeping him honest for the win.
Provisional race results from race 2 of the weekend at Virginia International Raceway. George Kurtz, Andy Pilgrim, Jason Daskalos, the podium overall. Andy in SRO 3. CJ Moses slots in 6th. As the lone GT2 car in the field. And then you get down to the GT4 runners. Urecki wins from Holland. What a drag race he had with Jason Bell. 0.04 of a second, the difference between second and third. And in a tight championship battle, let's stash that one away. That result could have implications further down the line.
Yeah, very much so. And just thinking back, Urecki really managed that race well. When Adelson made the big move down into turn 1, he gave him that lane, but then got side by side and out-accelerated him up to turn 3 and got the lead back. And same thing into the roller coaster. You could see that Adelson was going for it on the dirty side of the racetrack, and just managed to escape harm's way there with Adelson spearing it off the racetrack.
These are the rest of the finishers. 26 cars in all took the start. for race 2. And again, coming up next for GT America, powered by AWS, a trip to upstate New York and Watkins Glen International. A pair of races coming up in about a month's time. Let's get down to Victory Circle and Amanda.
Well, George, from practice here this week to qualifying to the races, you completely dominated here at VIR. And on that restart, when you get ready to go back to action, how do you prep for it to make sure that your car is going to stay in the lead?
You know, I think the most important thing is getting the tires ready to go. And you know, we had a bunch of safeties this whole week, and we kept the tires clean, and which is really important on this track, and kept them warm. And you know, the CrowdStrike Raleigh guys gave me a great car, and I just love this track.
We talk about the mixed grid here in GT America. Talk to us about getting through traffic on this circuit.
It's really important to clear the traffic, particularly if you build up a lead. It can be evaporated very quickly, and I think we did a good job today clearing the traffic and just gapping our competitors. We had a nice lead, and then the safety came out, and they made it interesting at the end, but you know, we put it in P1, and that's what counts. 2
wins for your now points leader, George KURTZ.
Great weekend for George in the point standings, and you hear him talk about how much he loves this racetrack. It shows through with the results that he's had. It is that boost, right? When you go to a track that you know you like, it clicks with you for whatever reason, and you've had success.
It does, and I think he was spot on there. When you're getting ready for that restart, you can't be sort of like intimidated by it. You got to think about, what do I need to do? And he did that by prepping the tires, cleaning them off, keeping them nice and warm. But he's in a zone right now. He's running so consistent, so confident in this race car. He's taking it to the next level.
And it helps he gets that extra track time as well, running in a couple of different series over the course of these weekends, running here in GT America as well as Fanatec GT. What a finish it was in the GT4 race. Let's look at the replay of how this played out. First of all, Adelson sending it into hog pen. Couldn't quite get it wound up in time. Glad that he was able to drive away after a big impact there. And that let Moise Uretsky make it to the finish line out in front, relatively unchallenged. Let's hear from a first-time race winner in the series now with Amanda.
Well, Mosey, you and Adam gave us quite the entertainment here this weekend, and none more than today of the transferring of positions. Him taking the lead over you, you getting it back. Where did you find points on this track to find Adam vulnerable to be able to make this one happen?
Honestly, we were pretty evenly matched. I mean, it was kind of when he was in front, we kind of kept pace. When I was in front, I got a little bit ahead, but really just came down to making a mistake or catching traffic. I just want to make sure he was okay after that incident there at the end. Happy to hear on the radio from the team that he's fine. That's most important. You know, safety's first, obviously. But yeah, it was a tough fought race. The yellow was not in our favor. We were out ahead with a gap, so that kind of put us back a little bit and had to get the tires working again. So it made for an exciting last 2 laps for sure.
Congratulations on a very well-earned first win.
Thank you very much.
That smile says it all. Big thumbs up. 6th different winner in the GT4 portion of GT America, powered by AWS. And another one now that we're going to have to keep an eye on. It seems like week in and week out. He had that strong start at St. Pete on the street course with a pair of podiums. Didn't have a great run at Sonoma, but back on form here at VIR.
Yeah, really a heads-up drive there by Uretsky there. So I think it's anyone's game. Like we said, 6 different winners. Who's going to really get that advantage and start to click the wins together? So we're looking forward to the summer sprint here and see who can really start to shine in the points battle.
And what a stretch of races it is throughout the summer months. Mentioned Watkins Glen up next. Then a return to the streets of Nashville. Very unique street course. You don't get to go over a big suspension bridge every day in a race car. And that was a tremendous venue and atmosphere 1 year ago in the debut of that race. And closing out the season at Road America, Sebring, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Back down to Amanda.
Oh, great.
Well, Andy Pilgrim, in his debut, picks up a win in the Masters, but take us back through that restart, you and George, to the end. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was super. I mean, I know George has some great experience in the car, and I've been watching him, and I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. He was, you know, the newer cars are better through all the mid, slow speed stuff, you know, a little bit better with the ABS, but we had some straightaway speed, but it was like, holy Christmas. He was just killing me on some of the stuff, some of the throw stuff. I said, okay, just be smart. You know, stay in second if you can. If you can get him, fine, but I couldn't quite get him, but it was a lot of fun.
Congratulations, Andy.
Welcome back to the paddock to a former series champion in what was then World Challenge competition, to Andy Pilgrim. Highlights of race 2 of the weekend. It was an interesting start, that's for sure. Pilgrim dropped back, so great recovery drive for him.
It really was. Jeff Burton got inside his teammate there, Howard, in the turn 1 and really put the pressure on KURTZ in the early going.
That was the fight at the top of the field, no question about that. This was the start, though, in GT4. Uretsky got the lead from the pole position. Adelson hot on his heels, and it was a street fight behind him.
Yeah, it's really tight there. Everyone managed to get through this first few corners unscathed. Big moment there for Adelson. Uretsky pounces, gets to the inside, and it took a while for Adelson's car and himself to settle down and get the pressure back on the leader.
In many ways, that proved to be the move of the race, because while Adelson did provide a challenge, he never could fully get in front and stay there. That was a big moment. Jeff Burton penalized for that. A little bit later, George KURTZ working his way through some of the mixed class traffic. Jason Harward, running second at the time, found the tire barrier.
Yeah, that was unfortunate after a really strong drive. Came on strong at the second part of this race. But look at this. Adelson plows it down the inside. But Uretsky just really heads up, just really thinking, keeping his head straight, and came back for the win.
And KURTZ with a big win there. These were the final moments in GT4. Adelson, full commitment, couldn't quite get it slowed down, and Uretsky comes through.
And you could see him just reading that, and he gets to the finish line first. But what a sprint we saw there with Rob Holland just pipping Jason Bell at the line for second position.
4/100ths of a second. The Porsche edging the Aston Martin, second and third, changing hands in the final couple of feet here at VIR. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Up next for GT America, powered by AWS, Watkins Glen. Hope you join us for that one.